Okay? And as long as third world countries are more dependent on agriculture, which means solar energy, we will continue to remain backward as compared to developed countries. Which is the reason why we need to start devising new ways of looking at this problem to get the thermodynamic equation to become equal to the economic equation, or vice versa. And unless we do this, we cannot move towards either equality or sustainability. So growth is fueled by anthropocentrism and class society. And these two things are roughly about 5,000 years old, 4,000 to 5,000 years old. They cannot be dismantled, very quickly. I think history has already proven that in the case of USSR, etc., or where China is today, or where Cuba has gone, etc. I think there is a need for a lot more deep thinking on these issues. And that is the search that we are all in. But at a far more practical level, since we are very short of time, we have just 12 years left to solve this problem. What we have started doing very recently, and in fact, this is an idea that came to us 3 years back when we set up something called Platform for Sustainability and Equity in South India. Then it came here to Calcutta. In fact, we set up one here in 2017 and one in Western India in 2018. Was that these are so big, these problems, that if I say that my party, I don't have a party, but if I say my party, my organization, my country can solve, I am being too arrogant. These problems cannot be solved even by the US or China. We are the third biggest emitter, India, if I even consider India as an entity, which I don't anymore as such, and in that sense, that I believe that we have to link hands and form a rainbow coalition today, and then move forward. Unless we do that, we are not going to be able to solve this problem. And therefore, we've started setting up something on a South Asian level at least, to try and bring onto that platform people of all sorts, but who believe in 5 core principles. Broadly speaking, the 5 core principles that we've decided, that we ought to imbue is: one is equality, one is sustainability. And in sustainability, we've said 2 or 3 simple things. We've said that by 2030, the Western countries must become net zero carbon emission. That means whatever carbon they put out, they should sequester it back. By 2040, the developing countries also must become net carbon neutral. And that the overall consumption should come down. By how much? We haven't specified. Our own computations show that energy consumption globally should come down by 55%, roughly, for all of us to become sustainable. In which some countries can still go up, those who are far below, and India is below the sustainable energy, per capita sustainable energy level, but certainly the US and Canada have to come down by 90%. Europe, Australia by 75%. And there are very simple ways of doing it if at all we politically agree on these things. For example, if we shrink cities by half, cities are the guzzlers. 50% of the population is in cities, they guzzle 75% of the total global energy. And that's the same case in India. Agricultural sector in India consumes only 70%. So actually all these power plants should be put in the middle of Calcutta and the middle of Hyderabad. That's what in fact our Nara is in Nagpur and such other places. They generate power just outside in Koradi. Nagpur gets affected, the power is shipped to Bombay and Nashik and Pune. So our demand there is go put it in Dadar and Deccan Gymkhana and so on and so forth. Our demand in Telangana is put it in the center of Hyderabad city and so on. Okay, the second device is if we can move towards a South Asian Union and start moving towards soft borders and reduce our armies and weapons of mass destruction. 10% of the total global energy consumption is on standing armies and weapons of mass destruction. If we can reduce our consumption there, even without getting into renewables, which cannot replace fossil fuels. Incidentally, fossil fuels contribute 82% of our total energy consumption. Renewables just cannot replace that. Okay? So if we can move towards soft borders, I'm not saying no borders. Ultimately, we should try and move towards that. Retain our identity as India or whatever, etc. Reduce our consumption of energy on arms, on armies. That's another way of reducing 10%. of the whole thing. The third thing is a crime I just committed. I came by air. I try not to the extent possible these days, for quite some time. Right? If we can get rid of air travel and private transport, 10% gone there. So there are many such devices. I won't go to the full extent of all these devices. But we have enough very bright people, particularly very bright youngsters in our country. Let's use that potential. And India is a part of the problem because it's the third biggest emitter. India is part of the solution as well. Because we are still below the global average, way below the global average in terms of emissions or whatever. If we want to reduce conflict, particularly water conflict around the world, India is the key to this whole problem of reducing water conflicts. So finally, I will say that actually the problem is not a technical problem. The problem is a moral problem that we have. And the problem basically rests on just one issue. The issue is I want to keep my climate. If necessary, I'm willing to change the economy. Because if I don't keep my climate, then I don't keep myself, basically. And this is a lesson that Ramappa taught me. Ramappa was an illiterate farmer on the Tungabhadra river, downstream of Harihar polyfibers. And he was affected by the water pollution that Harihar polyfibers was causing. And he kept on pestering the pollution control board, Harihar polyfibers, कि आपने कुछ काम ही नहीं किया इस चीज में. And the pollution control board kept saying, oh, they have an effluent treatment plant, they are up to standard and so on. He came up with a very brilliant solution. Any water using plant, what it does is it takes water from the upstream part of where it is located and discharges the effluent downstream of where it is. He said, reverse it. You have an effluent treatment plant, you say it's working to standards. You take put your intake pipe downstream of the plant and you discharge your effluent upstream. Now for 30 years he's been telling them this, but nobody in the pollution control board is willing to listen to him. Now, some 17, 18 years back, when I first moved to Hyderabad, somehow or the other they felt, oh, okay, let's put this guy, maybe, he doesn't know Andhra politics, let's put this guy on some committee in the Andhra Pradesh Pollution Control Board. And one of the things that we tried doing when I was in that committee was to tell the paper industry to do this. And they came up with every possible excuse not to do it. They always do. They come up with the best possible excuses. Okay? When we asked one paper industry, how much river length do you require to do this? They said we require 30 kilometers. So they never did it. They will find excuses. So the only solution then is to say what Ramappa said. Use common sense to say, the environment is mine. Keep the environment, keep the climate, change the economy if necessary. And that's where we are today. If we want to decrease water conflicts both with nature as well as with other human beings, we need to use common sense solutions, go to the people, and that's what we're trying to do now with South Asian people's action on climate crisis, which is a meeting we're holding on a South Asia level of political parties, of trade unions, of farmers' organizations, of other mass organizations, of NGOs, of people from the church, of people from far left politics, etc., to say that we need a rainbow coalition to tell the government to do 5 things. And wherever we can do things ourselves, we will do it, like organic farming or whatever. But here are the 5 things we are saying that government should do. One is move towards sustainability by reduction of emissions by 2030, 2040, by reducing energy consumption as well. 2, that the ratio between the highest income earner and the lowest should not be more than 2. And we can discuss that. It should be 2,500, it can't be 2,000 or 20,000, which is what it is today. Okay? The third thing we've said is that basically those countries which cause this problem must take responsibility for loss and damage. Which means if there are 5 crore Bangladeshi refugees, let them be rehabilitated in Europe and America proportional to their historic emissions. That means from 1800, whatever emissions they put out, that's quite easy to do, right? So you take in those refugees out there. The fourth thing we say is this cannot be done unless there is total transparency of governance information and unless there is total self-governance. That means, Hamara Gaon, Hamara Raj. I have control over myself and my environment. Unless I do this, you cannot solve the problem of water conflicts, climate change, which is actually going to bring in huge water issues in the subcontinent. And the last we are saying is, we've spoiled our land, we've spoiled our water, we've spoiled the air. Let's restore it. There are millions of green jobs. All we need to do is say, let's do it. And if we can start doing it ourselves wherever we can, individually, collectively. And there are hundreds of examples of this even in India, of cycle share programs, etc., etc. I won't get into the details. We've set out these 5 principles, 5 core demands. And what we're saying is, this is the way to go. Okay? I am done before time because I've been given a chip saying 2 minutes. Thank you very much for listening so very patiently to me. And if you have any questions, I'd be very happy to answer questions. If you want to see just a couple of odd slides, I can show you just a few slides. They're startling, some of the slides.